The following is a presentation of the Force Center podcast feed.
From the center of the galaxy, this is the Force Center podcast feed, and this particular episode of the Force Center podcast feed is the Kenobi Report. I am so excited to say hello there. I'm Joseph Scrimshaw.
I'm Ken Napzok. With the Clone Wars Report, I always do a music cue or a sound cue, and I instinctively almost went to one, Joseph, so I'm glad I did. Let's keep that in the Clone Wars Report, because I don't want to sully a great episode discussion we're about to have here.
I don't know. Can you do plaintive, bittersweet strings with your mouth?
Maybe, or it's unfortunate. I understand why a lot of these big companies no longer allow you to take like screenshots. Disney Plus, HBO Max. It's hard to make thumbnails. Life is tough. I get it. I'd freeze framed on one, even have it up right now on Disney Plus. It is two of the main characters that we're about to discuss with lightsabers. Spoilers to come, but the subtitle is both grunting. Like this is a Scrimshaw special. Like this would be a great Scrimshaw screen grab.
I took a bunch of screenshots knowing that they would turn out black, but they would just have the text. So I took a bunch of screenshots that say, like, Darth Vader continues heavy breathing. Obi-Wan panting. Yes. There's a lot of great ones. Failed beeping. I think that was my favorite.
Ooh,
failed beeping.
That's a pop punk band at a mosh concert.
It really is. We are very excited to be here in episode 2 of the Kenobi Report, reporting on part 3 of the Kenobi show, though the release of the first 2 episodes in one has confused our numbering system. But it is fine. We are happy to roll with it. Part 3 is, of course, directed by Deborah Chow, as the entire series is. And the writing credits on this are a little bit simpler. Written by Joby Harold and Hannah Friedman with an ampersand, meaning they work together. And then an actual word and, meaning there was a different draft, Hossein Amini. And the word, meaning there was a different draft, Stuart Beattie. Now, this isn't broken up by story by, teleplay by. It is just written by, which suggests to me that some of the content, both the story and maybe even bits and pieces of dialogue scenes that we got in this episode, were in existence in various drafts from the beginning. What do you think about the ampersands and the ands?
I love WGA arbitration rules. I love tracking the business of it all. It's pretty fascinating but pretty impressive that it is as cohesive as it is, and that I look again to the producers, the executive producers, the actors, and of course Deborah Chow. We said last time out, all roads lead to Deborah Chow, and I really look at that because you got to take a lot of different ideas that might be in line, for certainly, but take a lot of different thoughts, ideas, and voices, and make one cohesive story. So I love tracking it. It's also like a parchment of the history of this project, from film to movie to different writers, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it also just speaks to me, these writing credits could just be the absolute great reps of all these people involved. But the fact that this one is written by and then lists all the characters and doesn't break it up by teleplay and story, to me, that really suggests like the beating heart of this idea of what Obi-Wan is going through has been present for a long time. And this wonderful, masterful job by Deborah Chow pulling it all together has been, how are we going to tell that story? We all kind of know what the heartbeat is. How are we going to flesh it out? And very excited to get into it. As often happens with all of pop culture, sometimes a little controversy pops in to disrupt our joy. And we did want to address that before we move on into the joy and the excitement of this episode. It played out on social media yesterday that, and I'm sure in previous days, that the actor portraying the third sister, Reva, Moses Ingram, was receiving some just blatantly racist DMs for portraying this wonderful character of Reva. The Star Wars account itself pushed back on it. Ewan McGregor recorded a video as the lead of the show and one of the executive producers. I'm paraphrasing, saying where Ewan McGregor said, if you are sending racist comments, in my mind, you're no Star Wars fan. So a forceful pushback from Star Wars, from Lucasfilm, from the star Ewan McGregor, and we wanted to take a moment to address that. Ken, what are your thoughts?
I think it's very important to see that from the big names. Rupert Friend also tweeted something out today. Camille Nanjiani did as well, and I'm sure I'm missing others from the caster crew who did as well. I apologize. I think it's important to see the official sites take this kind of direct stand, and some might argue, well, they didn't do that in the past. And I think Joseph, you and I would, number one, acknowledge that, and two, say, hey, there is something for growth, and yes, there's sometimes conversations to be had behind that, but here's where we are now, and here's what they are doing now, and we think that was tremendously important. The first part of this discussion,
Yeah, and I don't want to belittle it anyway. I do wish that this kind of just stepping up and saying absolutely no, we're drawing a line in the sand would have happened with John Boyega, with Kelly Marie Tran, with many other instances. But I think, I do look to Star Wars. It's one of the reasons we love it is that the ideas in it are valuable. And this very show is about how people have made mistakes in the past, and they do need to think about them, take responsibility for them, but all in the process of moving forward. And I feel like, yes, I wish that they had been more forceful in these statements in the past, but I want to allow people and large organizations the ability to change and do better. And I'm glad that they're doing better now.
Yeah, and it's a tough dance at times of how much do you ignore it. And I even saw Moses Ingram put those great messages out. Great, it's unfortunate she had to do it, but on her Instagram page there's a part of me saying just take it, just bear this load, work through it. I'm paraphrasing a little bit there, and I can totally try to understand her position there and how that she would feel that and not wanting to decide, hey, no, but enough's enough. I'm not going to do that. I understand some of these companies saying that. I'm even often in that point of don't acknowledge your enemies. I don't quote tweet accounts, because part of the thing is some of the big negative Twitter accounts out there, I only see when people quote tweet them. I would have never seen them otherwise. And so I think sometimes in an effort to strike down your enemy, you might be amplifying them more. But I wouldn't even wag a finger at anyone there. I get it. We're all trying to process this. And for me, one of the big things is otherwise, it's I just want to say that, we here at Force Center obviously don't stand for that. But I'm really proud of our community, Joseph, our listeners, and the people we just met at Star Wars Celebration, the people in our Discord daily. For us, and this community has not been a problem. I was going to say too much of a problem, but that would even make it seem like there was one. We have not had an incident in our Discord. Couple conversations, nuance comes in, and maybe you might a wording here or there might be not be the best. But we are very blessed to have a great community around it. But we also don't want to lean back and say, "Hey, we're good here." That's not the right attitude to have here. Our house is good. You go work on your own. We're part of a bigger Star Wars ecosystem. So we want to make sure that we say we absolutely stand behind Moses Ingram here and reject any racism towards her or anyone in Star Wars, homophobia, transphobia, misogyny, a lot of bad things out there. We don't stand for any of it, but we want to be clear about any new ears that are coming into the show.
Yeah, Star Wars is about inclusion. Star Wars is about everyone has value. Star Wars is about everyone matters. Star Wars is not about leading with hate. Even if you don't like any actor's performance, this is what we talk about all the time. Don't lead with hate. It's fine to have an opinion about a performance of anyone. It's fine to have an opinion about any frame of film, but you can't, conflate an opinion with lashing out in hate. And when these kind of racist attacks are coming, we know from the past that maybe there are some Star Wars fans out there who are being racist. It's also we know that people who have ill intent are aware that pop culture is a way to create a wedge issue. And so it is very possible that some of these messages are not coming from anybody who has watched Star Wars, has an opinion about Star Wars, has ever bought an action figure in their lives, but they just want to use this high profile person succeeding and thriving to lash out in hatred. And I think that's why it needs to be called out. I don't want to be quote tweeting or resharing any one specific comment. I think you said it so well there. You have to choose when it is good to just say, hey, those people are going to say what they're going to say, move on, don't amplify them, versus what I think is happening here is an acknowledgement that these comments are once again coming in. We're not looking at individual comments. We're saying the whole wave of them needs to be acknowledged, so people who don't experience it are aware that it's true, it's happening, and it's not right.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's a big money business, right? To sit there and make your thumbnails, and Moses Ingram even shared one of them. It's a big money business, and so that's going to be what it's going to be. I like to focus as much as we can, and you're right, to stand up against that, or at least acknowledge it that's happening. But I'll just by Friday afternoon, I'd already had some conversations with some friends. Great people, great meaning people who had pulled me aside, and they have their own channels and brands, and going, okay. But did you really like her acting? And I just want, because we get this a lot, Joseph, and it's going to happen again, and it's going to happen again, and it's happened again of, hey, just because I don't like Reva doesn't mean blank. Just because I don't like Rose Tico doesn't mean blank. And you're right. I'll say this, you're right. But how you choose your words to express that, I think, is what we always are banging on here. Force Center. Joseph just said, actually, how you don't lead with hate. So you may have that legit good faith criticism, not even a bad faith one, a good faith criticism, as my friends did when they accosted me in a hotel lobby at Star Wars Celebration. But be careful how you phrase it, because you might just prop the back door open to racism to come into the discourse. And whether or not your intentions were to do that or not, I don't think any of the folks I was talking to would say that or agree with that. But I think you have to be extra careful. We focus on a lot of different parts of the discussion, themes, the why of it all. We're going to get into that today. But so to anyone listening who might have that, but I get your butt. I understand it. All we're saying is choose how you express that very carefully, because you don't want to allow room for these agents of evil to come into the conversation, which is what I think happens a little bit. But
yeah,
anyways,
I think
overall.
I think good intentioned people sometimes accidentally give cover to the excuse that racist people are hiding behind, and I think that's extra dangerous when it's unclear whether some of the people complaining are, actually fans,
Right.
or ever intended to even give this show or that character a chance. And
tragically predictable, huh? Tragically predictable.
Yeah. It is. And, I think the more that we show that it's not going to work, that it's not going to change anything. We are marching toward more inclusion. We are celebrating more inclusion. And for me, I guess the final thing that I would say on it is I absolutely am enjoying the character of Reva. I think the character is fascinating. I am absolutely enjoying Moses Ingram's performance as the character. I am not saying anything because I think, I need to. It is true. I think that the dynamics that Moses Ingram is playing with, from the just simmering fury that she quietly contains, to the really quietly looking around for her opportunity, to the just outbursts of I need and I want these things, and I can't play it cool. I can't be a confident monologuing slow villain like Grand Inquisitor. I explode. That is it's a great performance to me, and that's it.
Yeah. My final statement to those who are actively fighting this era of inclusion: you've already lost. It's here, and it ain't changing. So, hey, we have victory here, and we can go on and discuss a wonderful episode.
Yeah. And as always, everybody is welcome to their opinion. Somebody could tell me that they don't think Ewan McGregor is a good actor, and I would recognize that's their opinion while also being boggled out of my mind.
Yes.
All right, let's get into this. Any other final thoughts? Are you ready to plunge in?
No, let's dive in. Man, this is fun.
Okay, so we always like to set the scene when these episodes premiered. We were at Star Wars Celebration. We were together in your hotel room, but now we're back to our regular routine of waiting until midnight on Tuesday into Wednesday. Did you watch at midnight? Did you do any special prep? How did it go for you?
I watched it 12:02 for those keeping score at home. I did wait up. It was, coming out of the convention. I don't mean to address more real world stuff, but obviously there's been a lot of COVID positive tests and everything. I am sitting here in a very negative spot, thankfully, and feeling good, and two good negative tests, but I didn't know as of last night. So I was sequestering myself in the front of the house and let Grace live her life without my face masked presence around. So I was by myself, just kind of waiting. And then 12:00, then I got distracted by Instagram, and then was like 12:02, and it had the same energy. I posted in Discord. I'm so excited to watch this third part.
Yeah, I felt the anticipation. I just couldn't wait. It was, I was getting myself distracted by other things, and then it was 11:30, and it was just like, I can't do anything but take pictures of my action figures and wait. I got out a new Kenobi figure that I purchased at Celebration. I got that weird battle-damaged Anakin from Revenge of the Sith era, which comes with an Anakin, with the lightsaber and a hood, and then it comes with crispy Anakin with blue eyeshadow. If you've never seen it, Google Revenge of the Sith Anakin battle damaged action figure. It is a trip. So I got those friends out. I normally get a little whiskey for these shows because Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, those feel like whiskey shows. I don't know why. Obi-Wan Kenobi feels like a gin show. So I had a little sip of gin. And I was just waiting. And then I saw somebody tweet at like 11:56. It's up. I used force speed. I was watching before midnight because I put it up seconds before midnight. And Ken, I haven't ever done this with one of these Disney Plus shows. I rewatched one episode of Mandalorian because it was one of the shorter ones, and I just wanted to see it again. I was like a kid in a candy store where just like, I can't wait until tomorrow morning. After I finished watching it, I wrote down some thoughts on my phone like I always do. And then I just went back and I rewatched it from like the moment Obi-Wan ignites his blade. He's like, I got to see it again. Like I've been waiting for that for decades. I'm not going to wait until morning to watch it again. I have the power.
That's so funny. I did something kind of similar. Usually it is kind of, all right, that was great. Credits rolling. I got to go to bed. I watched the last 5 minutes. That's funny. Yeah, it had that kind of feeling. It's great.
Yeah, it just had why wait? Why torture myself like that?
Why wait? Yeah.
And then, of course, got up and watched it again this morning. So let's talk about our overall reaction to this episode. You love it, like it, struggle with it, somewhere in between. Where did it land for you?
Second viewing was a big, giant love. And the reason I say second viewing, the first viewing was a surreal experience. So that includes a lot of different kind of emotions. I just couldn't believe I was seeing Vader and Kenobi again. Even when it was just like, oh, that's Vader and he's having another business meeting. We're going to talk about that. I was like, whether or not they thought they were going to meet in this episode, I was like, wow, I'm actually seeing that. And so I ran through a lot of emotions on how I envisioned it for years. I've envisioned this in the show for years. I've then envisioned what this could possibly be or not be for decades, right? For decades.
Yeah.
Do they meet? Have they met? What if they were? What if they don't? All those kind of things. So that was in my head. And then, there's some things of, does it look good enough to me? And, would this work better on the big screen? I had some of those questions on the first viewing, but it all funnels back to this idea of it was just surreal as a lifelong fan to take this in and realize it was happening. So I think I needed to process some stuff. And then the second viewing this morning over a nice English muffin and coffee was just so moved by so much in their confrontation, this part one of thread to be determined, and just stuff with Leia and Obi-Wan. Tension was great throughout. Just some declarative themes, statements for these characters and building blocks for Leia. And it's just Ben these days is a big theme throughout. So we're going to get to all that, but that's what I pulled out of it, especially on the second viewing.
Yeah, no, I love that you shared this battle because I think it is a natural one, particularly since we talk about Star Wars and we hear people's opinions all the time. That battle to, on the first viewing, just receive it, welcome it into your pores and let it pass through you as a Star Wars fan and as nothing but a Star Wars fan. That's what I always want to do, is just let it wash over me, particularly when it's something like this, something like huge, like something that to me feels like episode 3.5 of the Skywalker saga. And not be weighed down by what are people going to think of that scene? Is Vader too short? Like all those, of getting ahead of where the debate is going to be kind of thing. And this was one of those nights where I successfully just said, like, no, this is for me. This is beautiful Obi-Wan Kenobi moments. This is beautiful Leia moments. This is conversations that I've fantasized about for decades. This is, Vader on a throne in his lava castle saying Kenobi is the only thing that matters. This is, so I was able to really open myself up to it and turn off some of those critical debates that will come later. And as a result, I absolutely loved it. This might be one of my favorite individual chapters of a Star Wars story. Maybe next week's episode will bump it, but I think there's something about it that is just, it was a collection of like the top tier Star Wars things that I am the biggest fan of. That are the biggest in my fandom. Not that I'm a bigger fan than anyone else. I think the fact that it is the epitome of light versus dark in this episode, and we're going to see a lot of that in Kenobi, but there's a lot of moments of selflessness and of helping others and ideas about helping others with Obi-Wan and Leia. There's so much about being selfish and fighting for dominance and only wanting vengeance that's coming from Vaders, Reva, the Inquisitors, and even just in the way the episode was structured, the absolute polar opposites that it goes to, from the quiet, tender moments of Leia and Obi-Wan coming together and kind of healing a little bit, to the entire end of the spectrum of the vicious, angry, awful moments of pure vengeance. It was like this episode was like a tender indie film about family, but also a Michael Myers Halloween-like horror movie in space. Yeah. And then in between, a weird comedy alien played by Zach Braff. That is Star Wars to me. You combined a tender indie film about family, a horror movie, and a weird alien, possibly played by Zach Braff. That's Star Wars.
Yes, indeed, Zach Braff, right? Yeah, Little Miss Leia Sunshine is parts of it at the beginning. And I got to tell you, jumping ahead, and I don't want to get into themes, but I think the Leia Obi-Wan stuff was actually my favorite of this episode, which is saying a lot. And that might be sacrilegious to someone like you who's been waiting for that Kenobi meaty Vader stuff there, Joseph. I know. I loved all that. But, I went back this morning and was like, those scenes, I want to live in those scenes a little bit. They were so great. And you're right, light and dark, even in the episode.
Not at all. I mean, there's so many great episodes, but that conversation once they're alone on Freck's speeder tram, mining truck, that conversation about lost family and what it is to find new family, that we'll talk about it plenty. But I feel like that is like the heart of like what we're fighting for, what the light side is fighting for, of like we've all experienced this pain and this doubt, and we're fighting towards healing and light and coming together, versus Vader just being like, nope, vengeance, period. They work beautifully together. Final thing I'll say in the big picture is I also just love that it was a pretty direct cliffhanger. Like, we talk about this a lot, that Star Wars is inspired by those old serials that had sort of great over-the-top cliffhangers, even sometimes with voiceovers of, will Flash Gordon make it out of the, lava tube, It's not as over-the-top as that of an actual voice saying, will Reva get Leia? But the fact that it just cuts on Leia running, that's straight up cliffhanger, right? That's like, sorry, folks, you could hear a billion fans crying out, next week now,
I'm glad you mentioned that. It was a big shoe drop kind of ending, a cliffhanger indeed, or a tunnel hanger, if you will. And I think this is one of those beats that I benefited from the second viewing, because the first time, it wasn't even that I love it, and it's totally a serial adventure. I think it was so abrupt, and there wasn't like a final, it wasn't like over Reva's shoulder watching Leia run, right? It was just literally like this Journey started playing and Sopranos is done. Like, it was like just and I was like, and that's okay. I think that's a good feeling to have for an episode to end and you to be like, I need to binge it. Maybe they should go to the binge model. Think pieces are going to come, like I had to tell myself, it's okay to want more. It's okay to be like, that was it. I think that's fine.
Yeah, I like the different visual language. The end of the first episode, we got a little bit of that. It almost looked like an ending of an episode of the Clone Wars with Obi-Wan walking toward the ship. The actual cut is still pretty sharp. But the second episode, we get that sharp, visceral cut of Anakin's eyes popping open, or Vader's eyes popping open. And this one, again, it's on the movement, and it's that sharp, visceral cut on the movement of Leia. Leia's like, oh no, I'm out of here. And Reva just takes that one step and bam. I like a different visual language.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It benefits there. And final thought for me on this overall stuff, just with Vader and Kenobi and how they meet and how it looks and how it feels. I have to accept that just some people aren't going to love this. And those are what I will call the good faith people, right? Not the ones who are crossing their arms going, Disney did it again. They're wrong. There's those. I don't want to engage with those. But the people are like, hey, this might not work for me, or I might not like the way it looked. And this is where it's sitting with me now. I just have to make sure, I really understand that and understand that might be that. When the episode ended, I went, I loved it. I know some people were going to hate it. And such is life. Such is life.
Yeah. It's always, the difficulty of doing something as big as this, right? That people have had headcanon about, right? Or a desire to see a specific way with characters as big as Obi-Wan, Vader, and Leia. And I think that, to me, is the spirit of why not, the spirit of a lack of fear, certainly respect, but not fear, that it sounds like everybody in the Star Wars community of creators decided, like, let's not have that fear. We know it'll be hard for some people. It might not work for everybody, but we can't let that hold us back. And I think that's why this exists.
Yeah. And look, it's happened, and what you do from there is up to your choice. Is up to you, is your choice, and no bad choice. And if you've come to it in a good, honest way.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that, should we get into the big ideas, the themes, what ideas are at stake in this episode?
Let me scroll to page 7 of my notes already. Yes, let's do it.
Yeah, me too. So I'll start with this, Ken, and then we can go play space tennis.
Theme tennis.
I feel like there's definitely continuing themes of the big picture ideas of this show, of childhood trauma, of the cycle of violence, of Obi-Wan struggling to forgive himself and take Bail's advice to move forward. But I thought throughout this episode, there was a real emphasis on what is it going to take to restore hope and connection for lots of characters, but specifically for Obi-Wan, of what is it going to take to restore? So that was my big picture, and then I broke it down in a couple different ways, but I wanted to start with the big picture. Where do you go for that?
With your big picture or mine?
Both. Take it wherever you want to go.
No, I absolutely love what you're talking about there. There is some continuation, this whole theme of Tala saying, actions speak louder than words. It's one of those, like, neon sign flashes, theme, and some you have to dig a little bit. And I love when both emerge. I love the ones that are just like, we're going to say, when Bail says, move on, grow. So there's a lot about that and that continuing theme. And I think those are obstacles. There's a lot of obstacles out there to what you're talking about, of how do you get back to connection? How do you get back home? Leia wants to get home. It's so heartbreaking. Kenobi, you talked about the beat of hope on episode 2, which might be a false hope that we discover, but he's running on that and wants to get back to a different space. So I love that. I'll go to that. And, in terms of your actions speak louder than words, the Empire is supposed to be helping. Leia points it out, but they're not. Nice guy, Freck. Hey, have you heard the shins? You should hear the shins. You want to ride? Get in here. He's not helping. Then you have an Imperial officer helping. A load lifter droid can't speak, only uses the actions and is very key. And then even, Reva at the end with Leia, just, hey, come here, come forward. Trust me. I'm just a voice in the hallway. But that's not what I'm actually about. So those are obstacles in a lot of ways to what you're talking about there.
Yeah, no, I really love that. The different perspectives on the Empire. That's one of the great things of seeing this. We talk about that a lot in Bad Batch, the era that it set in, can really show us the Empire. It's great to see the Empire kind of halfway through, or a little bit around halfway through its reign, but 10 years to be established, and to see these different perspectives of what the Empire is, to see Leia not yet been entirely educated by her family of how bad the Empire is, of Freck. Freck is so fun of being the good people on Tall. They pay their way, listen to the Empire. Nothing wrong with a little order. Like, Freck's just a joiner. And then to hear Tala's perspective, I joined up when the Empire stood for something. By the time I realized what they really were, it was too late. That was really, really a great, just sort of a canon thing, even to see, like, here are all the different perspectives depending on what people have actually experienced of the Empire.
Yeah, I really love it. We'll talk more about Tala, and as an Indira Varma fan and an Ilaria Sand fan as well. It was great to see. I was surprised by that turn. Loved it, but not just a twist. It was really powerful, and really powerful to hear that quote. It's almost a little bit like we're talking about when you're talking about the bigger issues. Just be careful how you choose it, because you might accidentally let the wrong things in. And if you join up and, hey, it looks good to me. Oh no, what am I doing? I'm a part of something I don't want to be, and I've got to choose to act differently because of that. It was it's a lot of value to that character.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I absolutely loved that. And I loved the twist on the standard, like, oh, is this a rebel dressed up as an Imperial? No, it's an actual Imperial who is a rebel,
Yeah.
That was great. I think for me, diving a little bit deeper into this idea of lost family and connection that we're both talking about, I was really struck by how prevalent that is, and how that was kind of, to me, the heart of that great conversation between Obi-Wan and Leia, but it's just spread throughout the episode. It's a big picture truth, right? That Obi-Wan is suffering from all his loss. Well, how does that manifest? It manifests with that he kind of can't connect with the people he wants to connect to, and he can't move past the loss. At the beginning, he's still trying to connect to Qui-Gon. He still needs an answer. He even has that great, almost Judy Blume-like line, "Are you there, Master? Are you there, Qui-Gon? It's me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I really need you."
You and I are thinking the same thing. I was like, that could have almost been the title. Like, it's more Ben these days as kind of a theme, but "Are you there, Master? It's me, Obi-Wan." Absolutely needs to be the title.
So we get that right from the beginning, right? That Obi-Wan is wrestling with needing that connection with Qui-Gon. Then we get his perspective about the lost community on this planet Mapuzo after Imperial devastation. It could just be about the ecosystem, right? But it's very specific what Obi-Wan says. He says, "Wasn't always like this here. There were fields and families, and then the Empire came in and ravaged it all." So we're being reminded that this whole planet is a symbol of lost family, lost connection. Immediately after that, Obi-Wan has a vision of Anakin as he was, almost like, he knows Vader's coming. He's concerned about it, but he has this brief vision of, like, it's like he's that desperate for family, for a second chance, that for a second he sees Anakin as he was. Like, he's scowling, but I thought that was really, really powerful.
Well, that's kind of how Anakin was probably a lot too. I think he scowled a lot. Brooded. He brooded.
That's true. Obi-Wan didn't get to see the smile as much as Padme did. But there's some smile, a cheeky smile. But yeah, that suffering from loss to the point of, like, I have almost a hallucination of Anakin, that he could be here,
Yeah.
And I think that moment was less about fear and more about, what if he was there,
Yeah, no, look, the Empire wins. They win by making you feel you're alone, right? That's this powerful theme we keep going back to a lot. And I love the first part of this episode and all of it, but I think definitely the first part, the quieter moments, really sync up well with Solo, really sync up with early Rebel stuff, Tarkin Town, Tarkin initiatives, and how the Empire is winning in that way, destroying these communities down to their course. And then there you see all these characters kind of separated. And then, the stress of this wonderful path. We're going to talk about the path that Tala's part of, and Quinlan too, all those kind of things. But it's separate, and it's stressful. And these communities are broken down. And Obi-Wan, the "Are you there, Master?" He's just not. He's so far disconnected from any help. And then Leia has that great line, if we're on our own, we're going to need some help. And how powerful that is. There's so many building blocks for the character of Leia. It makes me think of things later on, of her trying to gather old friends for the Resistance. Later on, it makes me think of her looking at Wicket and going, this creature can help me. It's such a Leia thing, but it goes to what you're talking about, this disconnection that's there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I feel like it really flowers in this amazing conversation between Obi-Wan and Leia that, to me, you said that I would consider it sacrilegious. No, that Obi-Wan and Leia commiserating about both being adopted is just as, to me, like the heart of Star Wars is Kenobi and Vader crossing saber blades again. I think that we got that great moment that everybody absolutely loved in part 2 of You Remind Me of someone. She was fearless and stubborn, and she was a leader. Great. We knew that, right? But to see when they're having their little flub and their little improv scene about trying to keep their cover and what they're doing there on Mapuzo with the stormtroopers, and Obi-Wan says, "Sometimes when I look at Luma, his fake code name for Leia, sometimes when I look at Luma, I see her mother's face." In that excellent, excellent delivery that we can all feel. It's one of those lies that is only powerful because it's true, because he is seeing Padme's face in hers. And we get that, great intuitive energy that Leia has to press on that. And, even asking, are you my real father?
Yeah.
Sometimes I try to imagine what he was like. Even Leia, who has a great family, knows that she had this other family, this family of origin, and that there's a longing for them and a missing them, and leads into this is absolutely wonderful moment of Obi-Wan talking much like Leia does in Return of the Jedi. We'll talk about that. Saying, I still have glimpses, flashes, really. My mother's shawl, my father's hands, a brother he doesn't remember. So they commiserate over this loss of like, we both had these families of origins that we'll never truly know. They only really exist in our mind as flashes and images. But then going back to Leia's fear about not being an authentic Organa because she's adopted, the fact that Obi-Wan basically says, being with the Jedi is having a new family. It's being adopted, Yeah. I lost my family of origin. And he says, then I joined the Jedi and I got a new family just like you. That was one of the biggest lines, biggest moments for me. It is the heart of Star Wars. It is about found family. It is about these two characters bonding over actual trauma, but kind of like a moment of moving forward toward hope of like, we lost something, but we also gained something. We had these new families. And then with Obi-Wan, I guess with both of them, Obi-Wan, the actual trauma now that he lost that family too. And that's a part of what he lost. Yeah. It's not just I am a Jedi and the Jedi are a team and the team lost. It's his family. It's everyone he's ever known. It's his home, literal physical home of the Jedi Temple. He lost all that. And, knowing that in the future, Leia's going to feel that pain too of losing her new family, it makes it all very hopeful and light and bittersweet and sad all at once.
See, you're making me feel good about liking that scene, maybe even more than the Vader stuff. But no, absolutely. I think it's a bit of the heart of the episode. It's kind of the why of Obi-Wan's mission in a way, right? I mean, the brokenness of it all, but trying to find the hope amongst the fear and the hope amongst the loss. Absolutely key to Star Wars.
Yeah, and trying to give comfort and hope to a traumatized child, which just there's so much in these episodes that are centering traumatized children. And we even get to see a moment of Leia being vulnerable, right? Where she breaks a little bit later and says she never, meant to run away. She didn't know this was going to happen, that she misses home and she wants to go back home. It ties into this feeling of lost family, lost connection.
Absolutely does. On the flip side, if I may, one of the things that's kind of hitting with me, this big theme, how I kind of process it, as always, themes are open to interpretation, but I went with this idea of we've seen a lot of what it's like to being built on unprocessed pain is what I'm looking at. And I was really shaken by Darth Vader being rebuilt, right? Because there's some coolness to that. Oh, it's Vader in the soup. You're putting the Vader back together. It's the most detailed I've seen, and there's a lot of other things in legends and comics and everything like that. But the holes in his back, the tubes go in, the bruising, the things on his spine, everything about it was painful, and a reminder that Vader is in pain in there, and how he tries to thrive on it. Then you get the examples of Reva pouring her pain into this unquenched thirst for power and position. Kenobi with his pain. And again, I say unprocessed pain because pain itself is, of course, not bad. And processing pain is not easy. And nothing about this show is letting you think that. It's analyzing that. And to me, Kenobi has got this, I call it false hope. I don't know if that's 100% in line, Joseph, with maybe how you interpret the end of last week, but this hope, but it's a false hope that he's going to maybe have to discover as he processes the pain and tries to move on. So because of this pain, he leaves Leia to confront Vader, which maybe feels like hope, but might be built on a little pain. You hear Yoda say, only pain will find you. And that great sequence, great choice of dialogue, right? To highlight, Qui-Gon asking, it is, a promise to not forsake Anakin. So no wonder Obi-Wan's in this mood of I can't let Anakin go. Anakin saying, if you're not with me, you're my enemy. It's this pull to stay near to Vader. It's all this kind of unprocessed pain. And even the echoes of Reva saying Anakin Skywalker is alive and he's been looking for you. When I think we all would think Anakin Skywalker is dead, or at least that's what Kenobi will say later on. All that ending with he's coming master. It's all these kind of examples, all these characters built on unprocessed pain and how you can work through it and how you can come through that to the other end and maybe find some hope through it all.
No, I like that. I think that is a great way to frame it, and dovetails definitely with some of the thoughts I had about, the big moments. I would say it's not an elegant phrase. I would say that Obi-Wan maybe has burbling hope.
I like burbling hope.
I think there's this instinct. I think there's just that shock. I really thought of it as hope at the end of part 2, where he reaches out, that's his instinct. He is a Jedi, and his instinct, like in the Grand Inquisitor speech, is to help. He feels he failed Anakin, and he knows that Anakin's anger in power in the Empire is something to be feared. There's definitely fear there too. But the fact that he's sitting there with Leia, and his first instinct is to reach out and ask Anakin, and that there is this overwhelming amount of emotion that almost knocks him over when he senses Vader, right? That it's physical pain, not that's a problem. Am I going to perceive it with fear or hope? It's overwhelming, right? And you feel like, I feel like in part 3, he is trying to do the right thing. He is trying. I think he is like, I don't think I can handle this physically. I know I can't handle it emotionally, because I'm glad he's alive, but I'm frightened to see what he became. And can I maybe help him? But I don't think, like you're saying, on process, I don't think he's even ready to quite ask that question yet, literally, and form the thought of like, I'll do it. I will try to get Anakin back. I don't think he's there yet. I think we're building to it. So I think he just kind of throws himself out in front of Vader as a confused piece of meat.
Yes, he does.
To stay away from Leia. I feel like, so that's what I say, like burbling hope. And I want to get into this a little bit more, because I think a lot of this episode is about Obi-Wan opening back up to hope.
Burbling hope actually really works, other than it's just fun to say. I think when I say false hope, that's because I know the ending, right? So I got to live in the moment of the story. Obi-Wan hasn't read this book yet. And I think he's coming to that.
In the ultimate story, I don't think it is false hope. I think it is Padme's right. There is good in him, and Obi-Wan is not going to be the one to reach him. Obi-Wan can't. There's just too, and it's not Obi-Wan's fault. It's Vader's fault.
Yeah. Would you say false hope for Kenobi though? Maybe then that he's got to turn the page and move the hope elsewhere. Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe
absolutely.
That's what I'm thinking.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's what's. I'm very intrigued to see how they're handling it. Is I think whatever interaction that Obi-Wan has, I think it will be an acceptance of his own flaws and mistakes, but a recognition that Vader made his choice and he's not changing his mind, and a sincere belief that Anakin is gone. But then I think in Luke's great victory, what a rush of joy Obi-Wan must feel in the Force to be like, Padme wasn't wrong. I wasn't wrong. I just wasn't the one to be able to get through to him.
Yeah.
So false hope for Obi-Wan getting through to Anakin now, but not false hope for there is good in Anakin.
Correct. Yeah. No. I appreciate the clarification. Yeah. No. I absolutely think you're right about that. I just think in terms of Kenobi, but absolutely. And I don't want to get to the Vader fight quite yet, but looking at Vader, he hasn't. I believe there's still room for a decision to be made. It's what I see. Yeah. It's what I see, and what I'm calling emo Vader.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, I think Vader is the meat metaphor is unfortunate, but he just wants to take Kenobi home and play with him. I don't think he knows exactly what he wants other than vengeance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of want to pull this apart and talk about hope and talk about vengeance.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about vengeance first or hope first?
I think vengeance, and then we'll lead into hope and the big question of how does the Force work? And a great example.
Yeah. So I go with you on a lot of the things that you were saying about unprocessed pain. I kind of looked at it as this continuing theme in the overall show of the cycle of violence. We saw Obi-Wan really thinking, really examining memories, meditating, trying to figure out what he should feel, what he should do. In contrast to that, this really visceral scene of Vader being prepped. It isn't just cool. It's painful, right?
Yeah.
The tubes in the back, the gnarled flesh, it makes you feel Vader's pain in a fresh way. So it starts with just like not even the level of the Jedi betrayed me or Obi-Wan betrayed me, but like Obi-Wan sentenced me to endless physical pain. It makes you feel that.
Yes, and when Vader says later, "You should have killed me when you had the chance," I keep thinking as really seriously, you should have done that. Please,
Yeah,
why
like
didn't you?
it's kind of a tough guy line, but it's also like
Yeah.
that would have been the merciful thing to do, a-hole.
Yeah,
Yeah. So we start with that point of like we feel Vader's pain, we feel why he might desire to inflict the same pain on Obi-Wan. We then also have this great moment of continuing Reva's story where she is almost physically affected by the sight of a Jedi symbol in the wall. Like
I love that moment.
right. It's like this kind of
So
Inquisitor anger of like there is that we think we just have the dregs, but they've got a system. They've got this path, but there's also just that like that seeing that image is burned on her soul of they failed me, and she can't even contain the rage, right? And this is what again I'm loving about her performance. Like she's kind of at moments she's being the savvy operator who is playing the hollow chess to move up in the ranks, and other times she just explodes because she can't control the fury, which we'll see if the show bears this out, but I feel like it is the cycle of violence. She blames the Jedi for her pain, for her lack of station, for falling to the gutter, whatever that is, for whatever pain she went through to become an Inquisitor, and it's all their fault, and all she wants is to inflict it on them.
Yeah, there's two great moments. That and the moment the unfortunate snapping of the neck, and she has a reaction to it. I see a lot of people pointing that out. I kick it back to you here. I love what you're saying. Do you feel, how much of it do you feel, or do you look into and possibly see this idea that it is this like almost like I'm thinking aloud here. I'm sorry, like almost like Kylo kind of like wants to go back to mom but can't, and therefore stays trapped in it. Where I look at her like that symbol really affects her, like you said, it really affects her. And how much of it deep down is her just going, man, I wish I could go back to that, but I can't because they are why I'm here. And I thought she played that so well.
Yeah, I think there might be a Kylo connection in like, you know what? Burn it all down. I'm not like she's talking in this episode that and when she's making her more savvy kind of hollow chess moves, it's, I'll be standing next to Vader. But I almost get the feeling that she's like, I want to destroy every living Jedi. And then once I get, to Vader's side, I'm going to, just like the Grand Inquisitor, I'm going to put a blade through him when he isn't looking. And then I'll take down the Emperor, and I think that she is almost she's trapped in a cycle of violence, but I think she's aware that like the Sith and the Jedi in her mind are culpable, and she wants to rip them all down.
I really like that idea. And I've seen some, is she a double agent working on the inside? I think it's a fun idea, but this would be the big why behind it. If we're going to follow it out, and I'm not saying that's what I think necessarily is going to happen, that she's going to whip off the black outfit and be like, I am a Jedi the whole time. No, not necessarily saying that, but it's the spirit of that is there. I think you're right. I'll take them all out because that's the only way I'll feel better.
Yeah. Maybe that's the only way I'll feel safe at the end of the day. And I'm so fascinated to see how this story is going to play out. And then go into a little bit of the big fight. We'll talk about the fight and the action, sure. But just that singular focus of Vader. His reaction to Kenobi is just blame. It's your fault. It's not about taking any responsibility for choices. It's not anything about like Palpatine manipulated me.
Yeah.
It is, the great, what have you become? And I am what you made me. It's, oh my God.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I'm sorry to jump in. I wrote those two lines down, and then I wrote next to what have you become? The shame game. And the next one, the blame game, because we got this real tennis match going over there too of, I'm sorry. Yes, you should be. I'm sorry. You should be.
And yeah. But it's just totally no sense of responsibility, no
Correct.
sense of how can we address this and move on, which I didn't expect from Vader. But it's powerful to just hear it. And I think just like the visual of it, we'll, like I said, we'll talk about it. We want to give it its full due. But once he has set those minerals aflame and has Obi-Wan in his power, just the image that I am literally going to make you feel exactly what I felt is so the cycle of violence. It's Vader on one side of this show. It's, Bail saying, Obi-Wan, you made some mistakes. We all did. Forgive yourself for the past. Move on. And Vader is saying, no, no, no. I am literally going to drag you into the past, and the past is on fire.
Love that. Love the way you're describing it. And I do think that's two of these polar opposite ideas going on in Kenobi right now, because Bail's is a very healthy way, right? It's aggressive, and it's like, I need you to be this person, but it's like, you got to process it. You got to process your trauma, and we got to move on. Learn from the past. You're so right. And Vader's like, it's on fire, and you're being pulled back into it, literally. And I love that description of that.
Yeah, it's just so powerful. And to me, it's just like a literal visualization of the cycle of violence, right? And the idea of like, this is just the beginning. What I want to do is torture you, maybe to a point, or maybe just that's it. I just want to torture you until you die. And it's going to take a long time,
Yeah, and Kenobi's like, man, Maul want to do this too. What's going on?
So from there, should we go to Hope?
Let's go to Hope.
You touched on this, but I really felt like it was this big theme. There is this idea of, lost family, lost connection. It's happening with lots of characters, the planet Mapuzo, but Obi-Wan is at the center of it. And I think a part of that is Obi-Wan has been alone for so long that he has forgotten about even the possibility of trust, the possibility of hope, the possibility that he deserves friends and help. Going back to that Leia line from part 2 of, I'm paraphrasing, but like, is it so hard to believe? You could have friends, and, even Haja Estri saying, you're not alone, Obi-Wan. And that he's not hearing any of that, right? Because at the beginning of this episode, he is, thinking that he is alone. He's reaching out to his master. That's the only person he can reach out to. He's got this great bittersweet conversation with Leia, where Leia asks him to describe the Force. And the image he describes is of hope and warmth and safety, but it's bittersweet. It's a feeling Obi-Wan remembers, not a feeling he's currently experiencing, right? When he says to Leia, have you ever been afraid of the dark? Leia nods, and he says, how does it feel when you turn on the light? Yeah, that's like great wisdom. And I can see like Obi-Wan telling that to, Anakin or Ahsoka in the Clone Wars with like this pride of, that's what it feels like to use the Force. And I do it every day, and you should too. And this is this sad, I used to feel that, and I don't know if I ever can again.
Yeah, I jotted down safety, confidence, comfort, purpose, and Kenobi ain't got none of these right now, because he just, the light's not on. The light is not on. And I thought it was a beautiful, beautiful question, because, again, makes me think of Han. That's not how the Force works. What a great direct way to address it there. And even, before this, there's that great little exchange where he's a little grumpy Kenobi and the precocious kid. And he's just like, people are not all good, Leia. And while that's a fact, and I think we're seeing Leia's not all, there's still some pieces to be assembled in this set here for Leia. She's all the foundations are there. She's still young. She's still learning. She's still growing. She's so smart, but also, it could get them in a little trouble. And I like the lessons being learned from her along the way, but also this reflection back on Kenobi and how, I don't think normally he might have answered, but we got to find the good people, or there's bad people. We'll look for the good. He's not in that spot. The lights are not on.
No, the lights are not on. You highlighted this great line when she's flagging down Freck of, well, if we're on our own, we're going to need some help. It is this great spirit that needs to reawaken in Obi-Wan of finding a little bit of trust, believing that other people will help you, believing that you're worth being helped or saved, but within that, that this caution of who should we trust? And I think this is one of like the most crucial things in the episode to me, right? We have this moment where they got to the location that Haja gave them, right? And Obi-Wan doesn't trust Haja at all, doesn't believe anyone will meet them. I love him barking, people are not all good, Leia. And that line really of, this is where he told us to come to. Classic grumpy Kenobi, right? Like, it's a total Attack of the Clones. Great job. You went that way. You lost him. It's a million great James Arnold Taylor deliveries of grumpy Kenobi from Clone Wars animated series. And then I knew it. I never should have trusted him. He makes this fateful decision where he so does not believe in trust or hope, that if he had had a little bit of that classic Obi-Wan patience and waited, everything would have been fine.
Yeah.
Because we know later that Tala was like, I was just running late. And he says in that broken way when she tells him that, I hadn't expected anyone to come.
Mm-hmm.
And this is those moments for me where I feel like he is starting to realize how damaged he has become and how unable to trust or hope he is, and that he needs to wake up. And it's a vital moment of not being able to hope or trust, because if they had just waited, they would have got off the planet and it would have been fine. And all of the horror that's unfolding is because, at least partially, he didn't have that moment of patience and hope.
Yeah. Yeah. It's where he is right now. I think that's a great breakdown of that there. And Leia and her unbridled youthful enthusiasm, pushing towards hope, as she often will. And I got to tell you, this might be a side conversation. I apologize. Just hearing her say, if we are on our own, we're going to need some help. And then flash to her saying, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. Mm-hmm. How a little extra meaning for me a little bit later on.
Yeah. And then, Obi-Wan even saying, like, she needs your help, Luke. I'm getting too old for this sort of thing. Like,
just one of those little moments.
Connect to a million moments of great reaching out for help that Leia does. Final thing for me on this kind of restored hope is, I think, the utter power, how crucial the scene is when Tala Dureth takes them into this path, the linking systems, where Obi-Wan discovers that people are still helping, discovers that Quinlan is still alive. I think that's going to be a crucial moment in this whole series that is opening Obi-Wan up to the idea that I've been alone on Tatooine, keeping my head down. I know Luke is important. I do have empathy for him. I do care for him, but I am also just waiting for the right moment for him to train. I'm kind of losing perspective. And he doesn't know that there are people out there still fighting. He doesn't know how much of his Jedi family is still alive. And I think Ewan McGregor's performance in this scene is masterful. It's like the doors of hope is cracking open just a little bit when he kind of marvels at it, at what's going on. And Tala says, there's a lot of good people risking their lives out there, opening up that door of hope. I love that they picked Quinlan, partially because I love Quinlan Vos. He was established in some Orabesh text of a Jedi who is suspected to still be alive in one of the Vader comics. There's some great canon lore stuff there. But it's also like Quinlan was one of the guys that Obi-Wan rolled his eyes at. Like, oh boy, here comes Quinlan. And that might have been the brightest his voice has been this entire episode, or this entire show. Quinlan was here. And Tala says he helps now and again smuggling younglings. Again, getting back to that idea that so much of this is about helping the young. But you could just see everything opening up in Obi-Wan that, there's a bunch of people out here. Even an Imperial saw that what she was doing is wrong and is risking her life helping people. Yeah. Quinlan's running around the galaxy, taking risks and signing walls, And then the fact, the quote that was etched on the wall. Only when the eyes are closed can you truly see. It has, of course, connection to Obi-Wan's initial teaching of Luke on the Falcon of, don't trust your eyes, they can deceive you. But to me, that's a quote about hope. That's a quote about a leap of faith. Only when the eyes are closed can you truly see. And Leia says, see what? And he says, the way. That to me is like that etching on the wall in this place of hope is telling him, I should have been able to close my eyes and truly see Hasha and trusted him and waited. In that to me, it's a start of him reckoning with his fear and how shut down he is to be like, I have to take these leaps of faith.
Absolutely. And what I love about the quote, first of all, as far as Quinlan, I had about 2-second thought where he was going to pop around the corner like, hey, bro, what's up, man? How you doing, man? I'm here. I'm Quinlan. I'm Surfer Dude. I'm the big Quinlan Vos Lebowski. I love that. Love that mention. It's very powerful, just in a name we all know, but exactly what you're talking about. And this quote, the only when the eyes are closed, can you truly see the way? You thought about the Luke stuff, thought about what Kenobi says later on. Then I thought of what that like actually means. When your eyes are open, you can focus on everything that's not the way, anything that's not the answer, all the doubts, all the obstacles, all the fears. I think when you're just, boom, I just imagine your eyes bright, popped, big, wide open, and it's too much, and it's just too much. And I think of Qui-Gon falling to his knees and closing his eyes. I think of Obi-Wan closing his eyes as he's hanging there as Maul's about to finish him, and how that just kind of tracks for a lot of the Jedi wisdom.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a reminder that it is frightening to trust. It is frightening to take risks, but there's no way forward without doing that, because you can't do everything alone.
Yeah, and I love you highlighting all the little missteps we've already seen 3 episodes in. I think you're right. It is so much more. And this is why I'm excited about the series continuing to push this stuff and tell this story. The idea of just Kenobi sitting in a desert going, yeah, I got a mission and I'm good. And now we're seeing just what that actually means. And I think that's where I'm having a lot of fun with the series so far. Truly this broken man, but we're seeing all the pieces and we're seeing them slowly come back together. Simple stuff. And I'm just really enjoying that take on it.
Yeah, and I think to me it is these building blocks of seeing Leia's optimism and forward movement and taking action, the way Tala said, of like you speak with actions, seeing that people like Tala are out there, knowing that people like Quinlan are out there still not just running, but still helping people. You can see how that would open him up to like, well, maybe I should do that. Maybe I should try to get through to Anakin. And eventually where he ends up of like, oh, this is not... this is a noble mission. This is a great Jedi mission to watch over this child. You can see how these ideas would lead toward, I am entirely content watching over Luke. It's exactly where I should be.
Yeah, look what happens with Nari, the first Jedi that dies. I mean, this is, think of that conversation. There's Kenobi going, nah, give up, bury your sword. Bury your sword.
Bury your sword and hide. Yeah.
Cost him his life.
Yeah. Any ideas about or any thoughts about how this episode kind of relates to big picture Star Wars? Obviously, a lot of these themes are big picture Star Wars themes and storytelling, but anything else?
No, honestly, I think it all kind of was on the table there. But yeah, I think this big push to help. But in this era, I really love this connecting with the stuff, like I was saying, with Solo and Rogue One and early Rebels. I really love that because you really see what's going on and how the entire rebellion that we all know and love, and if you're in our generation, kind of shown up. When we showed up to the party, it was already a rebellion. And to see the pieces put together and how far everyone has to go and how the bigger chances. I love that little moment with Leia asking Tala, how hard is it to be, undercover, basically? How hard is it to lie? The stress behind that. I really was moved by that and what that means for Leia, who will have to be in the Imperial Senate. And have to be putting up this front facing, Mothma-like face. Can't wait to see Andor and see that play out. But in the meantime, she's got to help and use her position to help. I really thought that was a powerful moment and ties to the bigger picture of Star Wars.
Yeah. Is it scary?
Yes, it's scary. Yes. There's a lot.
Yeah, it is. Only other thing, quick little things that I wanted to talk about is the great selfless versus selfish, one of the core themes of Star Wars, and seeing like the selfishness of the Inquisitors. They're just bickering about getting credit, right? And basically getting a dark side promotion. So we have that going on. And then in contrast, I feel like kind of a couple of the real big moments are Obi-Wan and Leia trading being selfless to almost a dangerous level where they're both more concerned about the other getting off of planet safely.
Right.
Where I feel like that is ultimately, like, I think Obi-Wan is overwhelmed with emotions, and maybe part of him does just need to run out there and see what Anakin truly is. It seems like he can't look away at first. So I think some of it for Obi-Wan is this just morbid curiosity need. But I think most of it is just about, I'm going to fling myself in front of whatever Anakin is now to keep him away from Leia. And then when Leia's in the hallway and just like, there's no way Obi-Wan's going to be okay. I can make it by myself. You got to go back for him. Like, Tala becomes this ball they're pulling in two different directions and Obi-Wan and Leia's selflessness off,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with your interpretation of that, of Kenobi. I think it could be, for me, a mixture of all of it, where I think it is a tactic. It is a you take her on. She's more important, and I'm going to do what I got to do. But I wonder if he had already, for whatever reason, had already been like, yeah, that ain't Anakin as Vader. We got to go. I wonder if he would have gone. You know what I mean? Both decisions might be right for me. I'm just wondering. It's a great big why, and I love seeing how that played out. And you're right. The selflessness off ends up hurting him. But hey,
yeah,
right.
I love that
do what's right.
Yeah, no, I love that it's a big, fascinating mess of emotions. It's not like when he's looking at General Grievous on Utapau and going, yeah, if I just throw myself in the mix, I'll distract him long enough. It's not the, I know, I've got a ploy. It's not even Obi-Wan on the Death Star being like, I'll sneak off and I'll turn off the track, the tractor beam. I know exactly what I'm doing. It's like, how about me?
yeah. Maybe we'll move it more to the fight discussion, but there's this big question of the why of Vader letting him go that I'm just fascinated with, and it ties in a little what you're saying of this mash of emotions, how the fight is just so much more. I think if you told this story 20 years ago, i.e. if I wrote the fanfic script on it, I'd be like, it's Kenobi going, I must destroy him, and it would be something entirely different. And even with Vader, it is, I'm going to hunt him down and torture him, but it's not all that either. And it's this this basket of emotions you just described. And that was actually one of my favorite parts of the episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely love that. Final thing for me in big picture is I think this has a great thread of everyone matters, that with the focus on Ned B, the loading droid who allegedly can't speak, and that Ned B kind of ends up being the hero of the episode.
Very much.
In many ways, a great everyone matters, and then the Imperials being so dismissive of poor Ned B.
Yeah. Once again, Obi-Wan being carried off on someone else's shoulders, right? Ooh, sick burn, Obi-Wan, sick burn. Sorry.
Yeah. On a droid, no less. He's got to learn a little bit more droid respect, Obi-Wan. All right. Unless you have any other big theme stuff to discuss, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back.
Yeah, I'm going to save a lot more for the fight and all that good stuff there. So let's get on down the road.
Excellent. We will be back with more Kenobi in just a moment. And we are back to continue our discussion of Obi-Wan Kenobi Part 3. So wonderful that there are so many parts of Obi-Wan Kenobi. We talked about some of the big themes. I'm sure we will continue to talk about some of the big ideas, but we also want to talk about some of the canon, some of the whimsy, some of the action, all that great stuff. So we're going to talk about canon. There were some really fun and intriguing lore drops. And of course, just as always, some of the fun, that planet, that quote. But let's start with the big ones. Obi-Wan Kenobi has a brother, and the sound of a million fan theories erupted across the internet and the galaxy. I thought of you immediately, Ken, because I know you're really always talking about that Return of the Jedi novelization, right? Where there was an Obi-Wan Kenobi brother. So how did you feel about all that?
I thought absolutely it's Owen Lars Kenobi, and we're just going to figure that out. They moved from Stu John to Tatooine. No, but I thought about the same paragraph in that novel and had a good laugh. And then I had 1,000 2015 Rey theories popped into my brain.
Right. If this had happened before, like, is anybody being like, no, there's still hope. She's a Kenobi.
Yeah, but fascinating. And you know what? I got to tell you where I went with it in the end, because I did think about this a little bit. It's just, you know what? Probably nowhere. They're probably on Stu John. John Kenobi runs like an accounting firm or something. And he's just, that's who he is. You know, maybe they changed the last name. Maybe Kenobi's something else. I don't know. That's probably the answer to me.
I get the excitement. I haven't had enough time this morning to see if there are, entire fan fictions of Obi-Wan's brother, Bobi-Wan or Obi-2, whatever it is, that I get it being an exciting thing. But for me, it just has such emotional power of him saying, there was a baby. I think I had a brother. I wished I knew him. And for me, that's the point. That's the whole point. The whole point is, maybe he is. You know what? I think he is a bar owner. I think he owns a bar, a nice little friendly neighborhood bar on Stu John. I think the point is he's not force sensitive. He's not secretly somebody else's father. He's not this, everyone matters, but he's not, this person who is the secret linchpin to a convoluted theory of, Corky's birth rights. I think it is. He is just Obi-Wan had family too, and Obi-Wan's destiny led him here, and Obi-Wan's brother has a different destiny. And that to me is the value.
Absolutely is.
All right, any more Obi-Wan brother thoughts before we move on?
No. I'm sure we'll get a lot more on that soon.
Okay, well, maybe season 2 of Obi-Wan will just be the Kenobi family reunion on Stu John. That's not at all risky these days. Move on then. We already acknowledged it, but we want to discuss it more. Quinlan Vos lives. He's alive, active, helping younglings 10 years after Order 66 and signing walls about it. I was thrilled. I think it's one of those great moments that absolutely works if you have only ever watched a Star Wars film and never even looked at a book or a comic or an animated series. It's clear that he's, somebody that Obi-Wan knew. It's implied that he's a Jedi, right? So it works on that level. And then for those of us who are all in, thrilling. We had that little tease in a comic book that his name there in Orabesh is a Jedi who might possibly live. I'm so excited that he's alive. This is one where I will be like, we're getting a Disney Plus show because Quinlan Vos is a really unique and interesting character, and I would love to see more. How did you feel about the Quinlan Vos name drop?
It was both fun and cheeky, and then also has a bigger meaning for Kenobi, but bigger meaning for me as a fan too, as I've gone on this journey over the years. We talked about it before here in Force Center. You absolutely grow up if you discover New Hope first. I don't care what generation you are, but maybe the original generation dealt with it more and deals with it constantly. Is you absolutely think Obi-Wan Kenobi is telling Luke Skywalker of a decades long ago era that Jedi are no more and Luke's the last one. You just kind of had that feeling growing up. Whether or not even George was saying that or not, doesn't matter. You just kind of grow up with it. And over the years, as more Jedi pop up from your Ezra Bridgers, your Cal Kestis's, and just Gungi now, to others that survive, it can sometimes challenge others. This I know. It used to challenge me more, but now I living in this world of it's only 19 years, and there's no possible way that all the Jedi could be destroyed, and there's no possible way to believe that Palpatine wiped out the Force, which will still have means they're still Force-sensitive people. He's trying to get the Force-sensitive kids. You know what I mean? So I'm in a very much of a different spot of just open up to this idea of Luke being a last hope for a bigger reason than just he's a Jedi. It is the family line, Leia, as well, as we know. So I'm excited to actually have these names move forward from Easter eggs in comic books to now Easter eggs in a live action show, and where that can go, and more important names showing up. Actually, it's something I'm more open to than I ever have been.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. This is something that I've evolved on as well. I think even a few years ago, I was like, cool, a Jedi survived. How'd they die before New Hope? And then, I was really accepting of like, okay, we'll find some ways to take characters off the board. Ezra's in Purgle Land, wherever that is. Okay, he's off the board. We don't know exactly what's going on with Ahsoka, but I think there's still some ambiguity with exactly where she is on if she's stranded on Malachor, all that kind of stuff. Which I think we'll probably get some clarity on. But to me, narratively, effectively, she's off the board,
Yeah.
But then that great, those great moments and discussions in Rebels where like Obi-Wan is telling Ezra, like, you have a different path. That for me, I'm fine if some of the characters are alive and maybe Quinlan Vos is alive and well. And he's just like, hey, I went through a lot. I went through, in that great Dark Disciple story, I really bent to close to breaking my vows as a Jedi on the orders of the Council to go assassinate Dooku. I'm not doing that again. I will not make stopping Vader my life's mission. I'm going to be a Jedi by quietly helping people. Maybe Cal Kestis finds a different path too. And I'm much more open to that now. And I think it is powerful that not only are Luke and Leia important because they are, of a lineage of great power within the Force, but more importantly, it's their destiny. They're going to have to face the truth of who they are. Life is going to set them on a collision course with Vader and Palpatine because of who they are. And I think that's, reinforced in the advice that Luke gives to Rey of like, yes, you are an extremely powerful Jedi. Yes, the Skywalker saber called out to you, but also facing Palpatine is your destiny because it's your family. It's what you need to pass through in order to accept yourself. And I think I embrace it more as a part of it isn't just like, who has the most force points, therefore who could kick whose ass.
Yeah.
That it's much more about being on the path to what you have to face, because it's a truth of who you are.
Yeah, no, and just on a technical level, if I might pull it back to that and the pieces on the board,
Please.
I agree with you on that. There's some pieces that I think I still kind of want off the board, or hey, what would it be? If Quinlan was to show up on Hoth, what would that be? But this series, even the comics, just the presence of the Inquisitors, which is not something I immediately took to as well. I think I got it. You can't have Vader in every episode of Rebels, so now you got this other Grand Inquisitor. It just kind of works for me on a technical level. I got that too. Same here in this series. But beyond just using them as substitute villains for Vader, I think that's really, really just not the right way to look at it. I just don't think that's the case. It's put in this picture of there's a cost to being a Jedi. We see one hanging in episode 1. So, not to mention, you just talk about Quinlan, and everyone just went through a lot of things. Quinlan specifically on his path. They just went through this thing of you took up arms and chose a side, kind of helped destroy you. Now, you and I might argue the rebellion is the right side and a good cause to get behind, and it's to defeat Palpatine. So, but even then, maybe there's trepidation about that, and maybe someone like Quinlan, because she just says he helps from time to time. He's not even like here. He's not part of the organization in a way. I really like that idea of Quinlan and other Jedi in this era know that their value is in a different way and with a different kind of light shining, and maybe it can't be as bright all the time. And that works for me, just putting it all together.
Yeah, and I like it if Quinlan Vos is, I think part of it is, hearing some of those quotes from Lucas that he liked the idea that Jedi survived Order 66 all the way through after the Galactic Civil War. And once the Empire was gone, maybe there was a reckoning and a desire to find them. Maybe there are people like Quinlan Vos who's like, I'll help every once in a while, but I'm not fighting this war. Or, Eth Koth in the comics is found by Vader and he's killed. But I liked Eth Koth's story of like, we failed. I'm done. I started a family. Just, just go, Vader, because I'm not a threat to you. Like, I love the idea that there could be Jedi who are just like, no, I put my head down. I think the Jedi that become like a narrative concern are, frankly, Kanan, who becomes all in.
Right.
And if Kanan had not already sacrificed himself, there's no way he wouldn't be there in the Galactic Civil War.
Yeah. That's a great way. Great explanation.
Yeah. So super excited. I hope Quinlan Vos pops up again, because to me, he is much more like, I'll make my Oppo Rancisis jokes. He's just a weird, fun alien. And I still hope he pops up in Bad Batch in an animated form. Quinlan Vos, he's got that great Clone Wars episode where he's shown as a Jedi who embraces emotion in a certain way of just like, I want to have fun. I want to be joyful. That's the light side. I want to take everything so seriously. Dark Disciple, he goes through absolute hell. He falls in love. And also just that he has a design that allows for more representation. There's a lot in Quinlan Vos that is much more valuable than just a name drop.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Awesome. Okay, we'll move on then to the fun topic of Empire hunting Force-sensitive children.
Right.
We kind of know this, but it's fun to hear it in live action. Leia asks what happens to them, and Atala says we're not sure, but no one ever sees them again. I think this is yet another way that this show is reinforcing that one of the main ideas is the trauma of children, and that it's ongoing. It's not just Order 66 and Leia. It's going on throughout the galaxy. I think that's part of that horrible moment where Vader snaps that neck so brutally. Is again knowing that trauma is a way to draw out Obi-Wan or to keep people in line. It's awful, but it is so present about what this show is wrestling with is a way forward from that. And I also just like that, yes, this is a part of the Inquisitor's story. I feel like that's a little bit of what this is in the episode 4. We're not sure, but no one ever sees them again because they get tortured to become Inquisitors. Feels like a little bit of the answer. Yeah. But there's also that connection to that great Clone Wars arc where Sidious hired Cad Bane to steal the holocron, find the children, brought them to that facility on Mustafar, and he was going to try to link all these Force-sensitive children together so they could see the future explicitly, so nobody could ever surprise Palpatine. So there's also that, like, are they following up on the Clone Wars episode Children of the Force?
Yeah, I had that thought too. Thought to those, and just I like it on this level of first of all, it's dark stuff, and even the way Tala plays it and Dervarma plays it's really sad and tragic and dark. And then they focus on Leia here, and that added damage, added weight to if they were to discover that. But man, it just keep fueling the fear of Palpatine, knowing that his hunt is not over, right? It's just this idea of I can't stop. I hear your favorite line of the Jedi, relentless, but it's almost like the Force is relentless. It just won't stop producing Force-sensitive kids that might go to the light and might defeat me one day. It's all this kind of paranoia of this quest for power behind Palpatine.
Yeah, and it ties into Reva's story so great that this is ongoing and all that. So, any other thoughts on that before we move on to some of the more surface level stuff?
No, go on.
Well, I guess this is not surface level. I wanted to acknowledge this and see what your thoughts are. I really liked that Obi-Wan's language of remembering his family was very similar to the language that Leia uses with Luke in Return of the Jedi when Luke asks about their real mom. Obi-Wan says, I still have glimpses, flashes really, my mother's shawl, my father's hands. When Luke asks if Leia remembers her mother, Leia says, just images really, feelings. So it's not the exact words, but there's a sort of a rhythm to them, into the motion of them. What do you think about that?
I think it's some great emotional canon, if not just some actual Force flash canon, or whatever you want to call it. I thought it was really beautiful in so many ways, many of the ways we already discussed. And you mentioned, too, just Obi-Wan kind of saying, yeah, I have a brother I don't know what happened to. I'd love to see him again. And we know what's in store for Leia. But also, it was just a sweet use of that to me. Powerful, but just also very, very sweet. It absolutely made a lot of people think of that bridge in Endor.
Yeah. And I think just there's so much in this show that's doing a great job of just showing Leia as very intelligent, but also just very intuitive, and that she is slowly opening up to all these intuitive ideas. And does she get home from this mission and really think about her mother and get these images, these feelings, after, not like Obi-Wan taught her to do it, but just like
yes,
that is getting herself into that intuitive place of like, I don't need to be. It seems like she gets a lot of pain from thinking about what who her parents were, who her biological parents were. Because this opened her up to like letting her mind drift and letting her feelings drift and receiving some images of a sad, kind, beautiful woman.
Yeah, I can follow you on that thread. Indeed, I think that beyond just the emotional pain, a little physical pain, whatever you want to say, it is definitely her kind of working through it there. And you're right. It is not, she doesn't get home and go, well, Obi-Wan taught me you just press X and R1 and you get Force memories. So
you unlock mom face.
Yeah. But I thought it was extra powerful, and I've already seen some of the discussions around the Leia character of, hey, is this kind of her Force skill? And we kind of talked about that, one of her Force skills, if you will. And it kind of, so that just made it all the more powerful when she was asking about, what's the Force like? What does it feel like? And it's kind of, you almost want to say to her, it's a feeling, and you've got it. It's right there.
Yeah, no, and that's a great moment of tension for Obi-Wan too, of like, how much do I open the door for her,
Yeah, absolutely.
When he's so anxious to train Luke and like,
Well, got me thinking too, this is headcanon territory, spoiler, headcanon territory of just, you got on one side him and his desire to train Luke and his feeling Luke's the chosen one after a while, whether or not he's at that spot, we'll find out. And then the other desire where Leia has to hide that more, right? You don't want that. You see what's going on. She's got to play pretend in a lot of ways, and having some visible and recognizable Force skills would not be good for her.
That's a good canon question that I was wondering about. I wonder if a part of this journey is, obviously Obi-Wan is seeing how amazing Leia is, right?
Yeah.
And then that raises that question of, how does Obi-Wan end up, holding Maul as he dies and saying Luke is the chosen one? And I kind of feel like Obi-Wan is seeing that Leia has a path, right? That the way he turns to her is like, you're a leader like your mom. And then when Leia's asking about being taught how to shoot, and Tala's like, she's going to be a fighter. And he's like, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
That he's seeing how amazing Leia is, but he's seeing the path that she kind of ends up taking, being a leader and a politician, and not as much of, the Jedi path.
Yeah, and look, we certainly not suggesting that Kenobi's choosing this for her or that she has no choice in this path. But I'm just saying, I'm just wondering aloud because again, I think of Empire. When Dagobah's Luke's flying away, and that boy was their only hope. There is another. He clearly knows of Leia's existence at this point, so I don't want to shortchange Leia. But even looking at some of the, not even necessarily the Rise of Skywalker beat, which was more about Kylo or Ben and Ben Solo and her training being. Changing the path of her training. But even in the Bloodlines novel, some of those novels of Leia, just kind of realizing she had more value elsewhere. I never want that to diminish Leia as a Jedi or as a second part of this, because this show's definitely, I mean, Bale has absolutely said it. She's just as important as he is. I like this idea you're talking about. It's more of wondering aloud of you have one side is the boys like Anakin, and then like Padme, and if Obi-Wan's thinking, man, if Padme had stayed alive, a lot might be different, not just for Anakin, but for the state of the galaxy, the government, and our fight. So it's food for thought more than anything.
Yeah, I only ever mean it as a compliment to Leia, in that we have these moments in canon where Leia has the agency where she chooses. I'm not going to follow the Jedi path. I think I'm better suited for this other path, and that it would be interesting to me if Obi-Wan perceives what her choice is going to be.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. So then from there's a couple little fun things. The subtitles label one of the troopers that capture Obi-Wan and Leia as a female voice. We have read about in a lot of published stuff, women stormtroopers. That was great to actually hear it in this episode. Any thoughts on that?
Yes. The First Order does such a good job of that. I almost took it for granted. It was like, oh, yeah. But no, I absolutely love that.
Yeah, and then a couple of the little drops. The thing that they are mining on Mapuzo is Vintrium. That I looked up is from a Clone Wars online massive multiplayer game that ran from 2010 to 2014.
Yeah.
And the next planet on the Rescue the Jedi stop that they're trying to get to, Jabeam, is a planet that was from the EU, established, it looks like, in Republic Comics, used a bunch of places, and then used in modern canon in one of those Star Wars Adventures comic book runs. I bring those up partially because I'm really interested in the credits that, say Pablo Hidalgo is the lore master.
Right.
And I think he does have an instinct to, hey, if it's just a little detail in it and it's not narratively substantive, I'm going to go for deep dives. For fun and to make people feel included.
Yeah, no, it works out. Yeah, he's doing some good lore advising indeed there.
Yeah. All right. Any other canon stuff for you?
Oh man, yeah. Okay. Yes, I have a couple. It's not so much the canon connection, but this canon revelation of this path, and all roads leading to Jabeam on this path, at least from here on out. I just love that. I love that room, the wood, the organic. You and I talked about that in the trailer, even, and how it's behind all this droid repair centers, this cabin in the woods underneath there. Really love that. That worked for me. I love seeing Leia, this firsthand exposure to a world being stripped by the Empire, and especially when you go read Leia, Princess of Alderaan, and how that kind of becomes one of her missions, and realizing that that's not a good thing, and using her position to help others and help these worlds. So it works on a lot of the big thematic stuff. You and I were talking about connections and the oppression of the Empire. But for Leia to be like, well, I thought the Empire was supposed to help. Your dad is. And your dad's using position of power, and your mom as well, and you will too. And here's what the actual result is of those false words from the Empire. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I thought it just sort of lore and canon-wise, it lined up really well with Leia, Princess of Alderaan, where, Bail and Breha are trying to guide her toward leadership of Alderaan, guide her to being in the Senate and to make a difference as much as it's possible in Palpatine's Empire, and trying to keep her at arm's length from the actual rebellion.
Yeah.
So I love that it lined up of like they're teaching her all these valuable things, and they're telling her, hey, a little bit like Luke told Obi-Wan a half-truth. They're telling her arguably a half-truth of like the Empire is supposed to help people. Doesn't always work. So your dad's working really hard in the Senate to make sure the Empire does what it's supposed to be doing. And now she is getting to see firsthand it's not, you know. And that's just going to fuel the way that we meet her in Leia, Princess of Alderaan. Of like, I know that things aren't right, and I want to do something about it. Let me in, parents.
Yeah, love that. Love it.
Yeah, absolutely great. And great to see the Jedi symbol etched in wood. I absolutely adore that.
Totally.
All right, let's move on then to some action. There was a little bit of action in this episode. What were some favorite action moments from you?
I'll start with this. Getting back to Fortress Inquisitorius there, whatever officially it's called, I forget. There's a lot of Autoriuses in that title. Reva, power walking, great music, great villain stroll. Look, here's the thing: we all at one point in our lives want to walk into a room like a badass with a cape, who people fear and respect. All right, deep down, maybe you don't always live in that spot, but sometimes you want to stroll across the command deck like Vader and have everyone in the data pit look up at you with a little bit of fear. All right, and I just thought that she owned it. The music was great. Natalie Holt doing a great job there. So it was one of my favorite little action moments, a power walk.
Yeah, no, I really, really liked that power walk, and it was great to be able to see the fortress as well, touring through her perspective. I think for me, one of the first big action moments was that great point of view from the probe droid of Obi-Wan slowly raising his head and that tension of like, shoot it, Obi-Wan. And only when it locks confirmation, the great point of view shot of blowing it away and the transmission ends. It's a great bit of action, but it also just had that and a hero shall return, a hero shall rise. It's not that triumphant, but it is like Obi-Wan. He's trying to stop it from happening, but it is Obi-Wan showing his face to Vader, showing his face to the galaxy, the confirmation that he's alive.
Yeah, absolutely. He's getting there.
Yeah, so I really love that one. Also in that fight, this is just some classic nasty action in Star Wars. I always love troopers being shot and falling from high places. Wasn't that high that trooper fell. So it wasn't going to be that thrilling until the trooper was bisected by lasers.
Serving up a good old slice of Stormtrooper. Yes. I'm not here to celebrate the brutality, but it was wonderfully brutal.
No, and this is what we always talk about is like we want to talk about the meaning of the violence, but then we also want to just say, but it is an action adventure show, and this is a part of it, and just thrill to the little moments. And, with Star Wars, blaster fights can risk getting repetitive, and those little action moments, those little choices make it feel fresh and alive again. And I don't know, I just feel so alive when I see a trooper bisected by a laser gate. I don't know what it is.
I know what you mean. I had one of those moments when it happened.
Yeah. Other moments for you.
Just look, Kenobi using his blaster, which, was from a little bit of a beat from the trailer, right? But it was just, you talk about this bushel of emotions that's going through this entire episode. It was both proactive and fearful and messy. It was dangerous, but it was also noble. It was a little bit using it for defense, but it was also kind of flailing. You talk about all the broken pieces of hope that Kenobi's got to put back together. That's kind of the why of it. But it was just also kind of like even last episode, just like, hey, he's got a blaster, he's going to fire. He's not going to have a pithy comment about it yet. He's got to do what he's got to do, and it's a little messy, but it was a good shootout. And I like you said, that probe droid's zeroing in on him, and you kind of know it's coming. And even if you're smart enough to remember that shot from the trailer, you're like, oh, we've got a fight coming. But to actually see Kenobi, showing his skills, I enjoy it a lot.
Yeah. And did you like the moment where he frees Leia from the trooper?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely did. It was yeah. Obi-Wan shot first.
Obi-Wan shot first. Nice. For me, everything else I have to talk about is the fight. So are you ready to go there?
The only thing I'll say, a couple action beats. Let me just say that. One of them is in the fight, but Indira Varma's turn, her first shot, I really enjoyed that. Not unlike even Hux and, an off-camera blaster and playing with that tension. Totally get that if it's not your favorite. Because of that out there, I just like it. I'm a big fan of hers, and I was totally on this, like, she's going to be a good Imperial. Man, I like my Imperial officers. We got Ilaria Sand, and have her be, yes, an Imperial officer, but the turn, it did catch me by surprise. And I love seeing her play this character, so I love that first little bit of action from her.
Yeah, I admit I did a little bit of a trailer, deep dive rewatch and looked at a little bit closer. And even on our last episode, I was like, well, maybe it looks like Tatooine. And I went back and looked like, no, it looks like this must be what Mapuza looks like because there are more hills. There's a little bit of greenery. And I looked at the shot of Indira and I looked at the shot of Obi-Wan flipping the trooper and firing with the, crash probe right in the background. I was like, okay, so I was expecting some of this, but it was so great because she has got such that Imperial gait. in her walk that I was just like, all right, he's going to meet that Imperial. It just never occurred to me that she would be an Imperial who is secretly a rebel.
Yeah, I love that.
And what are other? You said you had one other moment.
No,
the big fight.
She had some action moments in the fight, but we'll put that all in. I just like her little sniping of the stormtrooper.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that's absolutely great. Yeah, she had some great blaster acting.
Yes, she did. Yes, she did.
And then really, really choosing her target to increase the flames. A part of the reason that I just had to rewatch the last 10, 15 minutes of the episode was that might be one of the coolest lightsaber ignitions that I have ever seen. The Luke catching his new green blade and igniting in that little look of satisfaction before flying in to rescue his friends. Great. We had so many questions of how Obi-Wan was going to ignite his blade. The ignition in Twin Sons Rebels episode when he knows that Maul has figured out he's protecting someone. Oh, great. So but then you get to the Clone Wars and there's some like, well, yeah, no, they're just igniting every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So how is this going to be made to be a special moment, right? There are two things I loved about the lightsaber ignition. One was just that it was a slightly different physicality, right? The way he kind of whipped it forward and it snapped into place, like as it was arcing through the air, is really different than a lot of the meaningful ignitions we've seen before, where the kind of the hilt is held out and the emphasis is on the energy of the blade triumphantly coming up.
Yeah.
This was like it swooped into position. So it was like a really different physical motion that's going to become a great GIF. The next time I hold a large cylindrical object, I'm going to do it. It's a playground lightsaber ignition with a different like flavor and energy. And then I loved that it wasn't entirely triumphant. The hero was back. It was it was this mess of emotions that Kenobi is in, but most of it was fear, right? It was, I have to ignite this because that blade might be coming from my neck any second, and I don't know. It was a horror movie. It was a grab any weapon that's nearby, which I don't mean that because he has a blaster. He chose the lightsaber on purpose because he needed it, but it had that sense of desperation, not this triumphant, the hero has returned. And I kind of love that the first ignition came when he's still on steady instead of the, like, I've worked through some of my stuff. I'm centered. I know what I'm doing. Vroom.
Yeah.
It made it a different kind of ignition that he was in this place of fear and confusion.
It's just Ben these days. That's what we're in right now. It's just Ben these days.
That was a Ben ignition, not an Obi-Wan ignition. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because look, there's also, first of all, you and I just talking about Unforced Pain here for the last month or so. I've built it up in my brain and in my heart and in my soul of is he going to look at it, slowly ignite it, music swells, and Obi-Wan's there. We might still have that, by the way. And if we do, it will be that much more powerful because of what we got here. A false start where he pulls it out, kind of looks down at it and is like, nope. And then what you're talking about, it's a horror movie indeed. It is done out of desperation. It's done out of, not some noble defense. It's just this like, oh no, what have I done? There's a lot going on. Again, bushel of emotions could also be a subtitle of this episode and the part 3 of Kenobi. So I absolutely I ended up loving it. And I didn't have one of those didn't like it moments, but I had oh, that's it. Okay. Because we've been wondering. There it is. Okay.
I think that's the thing is I loved being surprised by it.
Yes.
And I think I wouldn't have loved it as much if it wasn't just kind of physically different from some other ignitions. But that it's like he's kind of trying to hide and, you cannot run Obi-Wan. And it's almost like he doesn't decide. It's almost just sort of like instinct and fear, right?
Yeah.
And then it immediately followed by those great horror movie shots of him turning, trying to figure out where the attack might come from. And the great sound design of having those incredibly loud, beautiful lightsaber whooshes. Like it was classic. Like, let's really pump the volume on that to show that he's spinning, that he's not sure where the attack is coming from. There's just so much about it that was not just the heroic ignition that made me really, really like it.
Yeah, look, I mean, we got to allow for some character growth, right? We're halfway through. And I think I think going in, this is again, well, I'm glad I'm not writing my own fan fiction here. I would have been like, he ignites it nobly. No, I love this choice. And I don't know, I haven't been out there in the wilds of Twitter and will probably not be for a little bit on this episode. I just want to live in the joy of this one.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how this moment was taken overall. And igniting it is big. It should be big. That we wanted this. And I think this will make whatever comes later bigger, because this one was so clear to what you're describing. I guess I better do it now.
Yeah. I also just think, like, it's been, it was really well done to me that there were these little moments of Obi-Wan kind of awakening and hope. He's in danger throughout the entire episode, but the planet, even though it's ravaged, is, natural and beautiful and light. And then Vader comes at twilight.
Yes.
And now it's dark, and he's so illuminated by the blue glow of that blade, that made it extra cool to me. And I really agree with you. I think that we're going to get another ignition moment. That is, I think we'll get many, but I think that we will get that moment where I am centered. I know what I have to do.
Yeah.
And, I think the way Deborah Chow is shooting this is very mindful to make these kind of moments fresh.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the Ben moment. We'll get the Obi-Wan moment a little bit later on.
Yeah. So a bunch of great moments in this fight. I'm curious where you went to with it, if you had some ups and downs, because it sounds like you were maybe wrestling with something about the fight. Where do you go?
I actually, the only thing I was wrestling with might have been I bet this is going to be a talking point, which is hard sometimes. It's just the reality of not just where we live in as Star Wars podcasters, but as Star Wars fans who exist online. You can sometimes see things that you're like, oh, I wonder if 10,000 people are going to say this. And I think a lot of the reveal, him walking in. I love, by the way, the employee evaluation meeting he has with Reva. What do you want to do here in this company? Where do you see yourself? There's that. And even just seeing him sit and then stand. It was all fun. It was fun to see. I said up top, it was surreal. So I had this kind of surreal vibe of like, we're actually going to do this when he walks into the town and all that kind of stuff. But this is a TV show, and it's shot a little different way, and some of it's on the volume. Some of it might be mixed into locations. We don't know. We'll see in the Disney gallery. And so, I don't know, sometimes I have that feeling of, is this as epic as everyone wanted it to be? And I think for me, it really was. And I like the location. I like that it isn't some hallway or some high-up walkway with no railings or a Star Destroyer. It's on this, in this area that the Empire is stripping of all its worth.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something powerful about that for me. But, look, I'm someone who in the Two and All Village and Force Awakens, still to me, I look at it and go, I can tell that's a set, or something like that, which, surprise, Jakku's not a real planet. But without a doubt, you sometimes have those moments. So there's part of me that just probably knows this won't work for everybody. But I had to kind of work through that and put that aside and go, this is working for me. I don't want that other doubt to seep into what I'm getting, because this was a huge, huge moment for me as a Star Wars fan personally.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only distraction I had, and the only question of, is this going to be a talking point, is, is Vader's height correct? Right. And for me, like, if Vader, they're mostly, I think, shooting him from an upward angle to kind of address that. I had already seen people talking online before this episode of like, how are they going to handle that? Are they going to get Hayden up on stilts? Right. For me, I understand if that's a distraction for anybody. So absolutely no judgment. I'll only speak for myself. For me, it just doesn't bother me, because I'm so invested in the ideas and the meaning. And I loved that this was a Vader horror movie, right? This is somebody who is in pain, who wants to inflict pain, and is, marching forward in this sort of monstrous, can't be stopped way. The fact that, you could have had a scene where he slowly tortures one person and is shouting out, Obi-Wan, will you come save this person? But the fact that he pauses briefly, but he's, mostly just marching, dragging that person behind them, just absolutely terrifying. And then stalking Obi-Wan in this decimated, place that just, nothing to hide behind, but piles of, ravaged, churned up earth. All of that worked for me. And once the blades were actually ignited, we had a couple questions about this of like, well, how is this going to work? Because their fight is slower and tentative, and they're testing each other in A New Hope. And this just incredibly athletic, spinning, flipping, vital fight in Revenge of the Sith. And I had said that what I wanted is power, not speed.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe I have a bias because I got what I wanted.
Yeah.
and I feel like this is one of their first confrontations of at least two, perhaps more.
Yeah.
But that it was just, this is Vader's fighting style, is to overpower you. Right.
Yeah.
And I think like my favorite moment was when we had those moments where we were kind of trying to spin blades, and it would look like, Kenobi was trying to prevent him from doing the flip it out of your hand move.
Yeah.
But in particular, when he's got Obi-Wan down and he's just hammering on the blade, just wailing on it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's just power and anger and battery, and it makes it so scary. It connects to when Luke gives in and does the same thing to Vader in the Emperor's throne room in Return of the Jedi. That might have been one of my favorite moments. The actual lightsaber fight is just Vader hammering on Obi-Wan's blade. Power, not speed, anger.
Yeah. I put down this note of, I think the fight was consistent so far with two different eras we've seen them in. And and we'll see where they get before. There's already been some quotes out there of the style of fighting. We'll see. But what we've seen before, I absolutely agree with your take on its power. I think it's a little bit of, what we see in A New Hope, both of them getting a little older, doing little different things with their skills. And I still see flashes of what we saw in Sith. So I think that's there. I'm with you on that there. And overall, just my overall view on the fight, we can get back into more of the details. I just want to say it's like what you're describing, him walking through the village, indiscriminately hurting and killing people. Reva even having a reaction to that. It's so consistent with what we see of this man, marching through, showing all of his power, whether it's a hallway on a Star Destroyer, whether it's Hoth base. Oh, he's the most intimidating badass in the galaxy, and he never gets what he wants. He never, all that power, everything he wants. And this whole fight kind of ends with that. And I think there's some why and there's some reasons behind it as he watches him get pulled away. But I just kind of overall really love what was going on here for Vader in this scene.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to get back to the end of it, but I just want to share the other moment that I think maybe fans would like. And I definitely I have shared before, I watch these at midnight when my wife has already gone to sleep. So I try to scream quietly. And I think I might have failed. That great moment where Obi-Wan is igniting the blade. He's getting ready for Vader to come again. He's weak. He doesn't know how he's going to get out of this. And then looks because he senses Vader's going to knock something over. And when he first knocked over whatever those minerals were, I was like, oh, is he going to just drag him through those and cut him? So when he bends down and with the touch of a blade lights up those minerals, it's this great weird space fantasy moment of, you don't know what those minerals are or how they chemically react with a laser sword. Who cares? It's cool. and of course the this is how laser focused he is on what he wants out of Kenobi.
Yeah.
Is to put him through the exact pain that Vader Anakin went through. Such an amazing oh crap moment when he ignites the minerals.
Yeah, I had a moment of I think I overlooked, again, the first time you watched it, he knocked something over. I thought, was he going to toss it at him like it's Luke and Bespin? He's going to hit him with the cases or whatever. And so when he's leaning down, I'm like, what is he? Like one of those kind of reactions. So it was that from that point of view, I guess I would say it was very effective for me.
Yeah, and I just like that he assessed Obi-Wan. He shared his assessment.
Yeah,
that the years have made Obi-Wan weak, and he's just so in control to be like, I am going to, set up the scene.
Yeah,
Obi-Wan is such a non-threat to me right now. I can slowly set the stage for my little drama and pull him into the flames, which is visceral.
Yeah, I got to think the part that is Vader has been sitting around for these last 10 years, a la Cersei Lannister dreaming up of ways to kill her enemies, just sitting around going, what if I was what if I get him in the water? Okay, what if I what I'd like to do? I'd like to burn him. There's that part of Vader that's not done thinking about that,
Yeah, there's a part of Anakin that can be very, very direct. No nuance.
No.
To make you feel what I felt. Yeah, so then Vader releases Obi-Wan with a force push. He's burned him a little bit, and he's gonna take him back and torture him slowly to his delight, right? And then we have Tala coming in with the save, igniting even bigger flames. We hear, if you watch the subtitles, the stormtroopers are saying like, "I can't see," and things like that. So the stormtroopers are taken care of. But yeah, it really does invite, after everything we've just seen from Vader. He can't put both hands out and wash those flames away. He can't just reach out and crush, Ned B's head. Did you feel that then? It sounds like from some of the things you've been saying that you felt like Vader's letting him go for now.
Yes, I think so. This is my interpretation. This is not a Wikipedia checklist at all. And the story's not done. And I'm not expecting next episode Vader, fires up the old Palpatine hotline and says, I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. I saw him there and had a, little pang in my heart. But I think there's that bushel of emotions you and I keep talking about. I'm not sure why he let him go. But here's what I like about it. This fight and this rematch and any that's to come, we've talked about it here before. It's just so clearly more than a physical confrontation, a physical domination, a fight to the finish. It is so about their relationship. It's so about their shared history. It's so about the blame game and the shame game. And this isn't a new topic to us here, but to see it right there, it drove it home for me. To the reflection of the flames in his eyes, other than just, hey, maybe by the way, he doesn't want to walk through fire again. Maybe he's like,
there's a little bit of that.
Hey, ouch, babe. Don't want to do that again. And maybe there's that. And then maybe there's just like, who knows what's going on inside him? We can't see that. We can only, actions are louder than words. And that's a big action right there for him to go, I don't know what that just did to me. That felt good, but it didn't heal. And and just that's my official analysis. Vader went, I
like that analysis very, very much. Let's put that on Wikipedia. Vader was clearly feeling link to no source. Yeah. I think there are two things. One, for me, there was just the strange nerd delight of feeling like I am seeing in a live action Star Wars show a shot of Darth Vader that is basically the entire marketing machine for Revenge of the Sith.
Yes.
Every action figure, every napkin, right, was Vader and flames. Vader in the armor, right? Yep. And I think it is one of the things that made people think like we're going to see Vader in action a little bit more. Obviously, we saw both of those things. We saw Anakin in flames and we saw the armor, but not together. So to see that shot of Vader with the flames dancing in his eyes is like, that's that's the image I've been living with since 2005. I just bought action figures that have that marketing on it, Yeah. So that was just a great nerd moment and image moment. But this is totally, we'll see how the episodes played out, because maybe it is meant to be that, Vader has this moment of not wanting to cross the flames. What I felt in that moment was Vader doesn't want the hunt to be done because he's pining for some satisfaction. And I don't think it was like this moment of empathy of like, I pulled him into the flames and I didn't get any satisfaction from it. I think it's almost more like, if I follow this all the way through, right around the door will be the realization that it doesn't fix anything.
Right.
And so I can kind of let him go, knowing I can prove myself by tracking him down again, and I can relive this moment of catching him again and beginning the pain again. And I can, since I'm in this just horrible cycle of anger where I have nothing to live for but vengeance, how can I just recreate the moment of vengeance and stay in that moment for as long as possible? Because it's all I have. And I don't think it's even him being like, I am thinking this and this is a logical thought. I think it's that emotional, like,
right.
I want to stay in that moment of vengeance. And if I let puny, pathetic, week-old Kenobi run, I'll find him again in 10 minutes and I'll get to relive this and I'll stay in that moment.
I like this idea. I like this idea of, what happens if I solve my problems? Then the only thing I have left is me. Got to deal with me. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And to your point, and I think what you and I both keep kind of hinting on or just kind of saying and hinting around there is just that, this is incomplete. It's an incomplete beat, and we have 3 more episodes, right? It's not the end of the story here. And I personally don't 100% know why he didn't. I hope we're going to find out.
You know what? I 100% agree with that. And I think this show is being really satisfying in having moments of ambiguity for us to think and talk and wonder. And that is a part of the fun.
Mm.
And it's really fun to wonder about the emotional canon, not
Yeah.
necessarily the who is Rey, who is Snoke, not those kind of concrete questions, but those emotional canon questions of why did Vader do that? It's really fun. Probably shouldn't move on from Vader without having a conversation about his amazing voice.
Yeah.
I was incredibly pleasantly surprised that it sounds as awesome as it does, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I think either they have developed some amazing technology for de-aging since Vader's appearance in Rogue One, or I think there is the possibility that they are using the same AI technology that they have used for Luke's voice in The Mandalorian Book of Boba Fett to compile these Vader lines. But it sounds great, regardless of how they achieved it. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I had the same thought. There was a couple even I'm not trying to make me sound like I'm smart and I figured it out or anything, because it could not be this way. But there was a couple beats or a use of the word Obi-Wan. I was like, I think I've heard that in Jedi before. Like, Obi-Wan once thought of it as you did, like some of the same vibes. So I think that will be revealed. It just makes some sense. That would work. And yeah, and if they did happen to find a way to de-age the great James Earl Jones voice a little bit, I would like that program now. I'll pay a lot for an Apple add-on.
Yeah. But it sounded good to you?
I really loved it. And, I'm not going to say I was concerned. I was wondering how they were going to do it. Love Rogue One. Love that James Earl Jones is the credited voice actor there. I think others like, what's his name? Scott Lawrence does a great job. There's a lot of wonderful Vaders out there. Just means something. I know, we're Star Wars fans. Mm-hmm. We're a little prickly at times. It means something to know that James Earl Jones is doing it. So I think it sounds great.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just some great Vader lines, and if they use the AI technology, I think they selected some great delivery. The third sister, and I am what you made me. All great stuff. And if they are using that technology, they've got a lot to work with the amount of James Earl Jones voice work in acting performances, and I think the rasp and the echo of Vader's voice, I think probably helps a ton as well.
Yep.
And I look forward to the Disney gallery behind the scenes to find out how the magic was achieved.
Stay tuned.
Should we talk about moments of comedy and whimsy in this episode?
Absolutely.
I only have a few, because this was a little bit more of a bittersweet and a heartfelt and a scary episode. Not as much of a wacky laugh 'em up episode. But where'd you go?
No, and we should, because this series has been wonderfully funny and whimsical all the way through for a series about a broken man in the desert. So I've been pleasantly surprised. I love all the stuff with Leia after being told, you don't talk. Okay, I can't talk, or I don't like to talk. You don't like to talk. I love that. But then her immediately just running in and giving Freck the whole spiel. And then I like Freck going, that's a weird story. But I love her saying, Father, aren't you going to say hello after being told you don't talk? Just classic Leia for me.
Yeah, I think those were the two main beats for me, as grumpy Obi-Wan as they're walking. Now, remember, if anyone asks, we're farmers from Tull. You're my daughter, and you don't talk. I love Obi-Wan fighting a pointless battle. Like, you get where he's coming from, of like, don't improvise. You're only going to get us in trouble. And it's a pointless battle because Leia ends up helping him cover his flub, and also, like, Obi-Wan sees so much of Padme in her, so much of Anakin in her. Like, Obi-Wan, come on, man.
Yeah.
What in your entire experience with this family thinks that she's going to not talk?
Yeah, absolutely.
Makes it really funny. And then, I really liked Freck. I liked the big, weird cartoon voice, and I really liked we got lost in a field. That's a weird story. But I liked his whole, down to earth mining vibe, and like, I'm just kind of a truck driver, and, I think these Imperials are great guys who keep the order. All of it was fun and funny.
Yeah. No, absolutely. All her beats. Her Leia going, absolutely. We love the Empire. Just it kills me. Kills me.
Yeah. This is not a moment of comedy, but maybe whimsy, maybe heartfelt whimsy. I did really like Ben fixing Lola, and I wanted to be sure to highlight that.
Same. I just really love that. And yes, you could bring in Kenobi's sometimes troublesome relationship with droids, but just what it meant. I really love that.
Yeah. And final moment of comedy for me, it's got meaning and depth, but I do like when Tala is strapping on the blaster and explaining that she keeps it on the opposite hip for a fast draw, and Leia's just like, "Can you teach me how to shoot?"
Yeah. Oh, look, there's so many wonderful building blocks for Leia, and I'm so on board for this. And I know others might not be. Others are generally happy. Whatever. I'm so on board for this. And even Leia meeting the loader droid, Ned B, and just being like, "Hi, this is my droid," and this and that, and the way she treats everybody, it's just again a consistent. But I just say the building blocks of what's to come, and it works really well. And I think often of Padme, who was in local government so young, and then gets elected so young, like it just tracks. Truly her mother's daughter in a lot of ways.
Yeah. What if he wants to say something?
Yeah.
What if he has something to say? It's so good. So good. All right. Is there anything that you wanted to address that you weren't sure about or didn't like?
No, the biggest one is I just I understand these shows are shot in a different way. I cannot wait for Andor, which seems to be shot in a maybe more practical way and a bigger scope. And if there's any of the conversation, I don't even know if there's a ton of that conversation out there. And I aim not to find out, but I had those reactions too. I've had that reaction since Mando 1, the volume. You and I were having a great conversation with Alex Backus on the floor of the convention, just about, just the shooting and set up the shots and foreground backgrounds and how they're learning to use the volume bigger and better every time. I can understand the Vader fight. I love where it was set. It might seem small. I just think there's so much at play in it. I just want to put that out there and continue to try to address it if that's any kind of obstacle for anyone. I understand, but look for the why of the fight, and you might get more out of it.
Yeah, I would also say for a little mini Star Wars counseling about the Obi-Wan Vader fight, this is just the beginning, to quote Count Dooku. I was happy that it wasn't this massive scale fight, because it is them both testing each other. It's Vader vengeance, but Obi-Wan just trying to survive and draw him away. It's not Obi-Wan with any goal or agency other than to draw him away and survive. If that, and I feel like since it happened in the third episode, I think it might have been a choice to make it cool, really cool, but to play a little bit more of the horror movie angle and a little bit more of the tension and keep the actual fight a little bit smaller, because we're building to something much, much bigger.
Yeah, 100%. Again, the story is not done.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. I think you and I have talked about sometimes bemoaning that in original trilogy days, and sometimes even in prequel trilogy days, that we could safely point out a moment that we thought was like awkward or unintentionally funny and enjoy it without people thinking that we're tearing something down. So in the spirit of wanting to reclaim that, wanting to be able to point out, you know what, something that made me laugh, and I'm saying that as somebody who loves the show and not as a bullet point to be added to why it's bad or any of this. I loved Vader's castle. I love seeing him in the throne. I love seeing him, have to put on his limbs to take a business call from Reva. Love it. That image of him looking out at Mustafar, and just that kind of angry strip of glaring red is his office window. That's his corner office. Loved all of that. But the shot where he stands up in the throne and for just a moment, dead center, is Vader crotch, made me laugh.
Yeah. And he stands up like he's like he can't turn those hips too well. Loved all that. Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Yeah, the half a second of the exact thing I'm being presented on screen is Vader crotch. It made me laugh, and I'm going to be willing to say that because it is not something I'm adding to the laundry list of why this show is bad. Love this show.
Yep.
I was amused at the Vader crotch.
There you go.
Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you wanted to? We ended up doing an even longer episode covering just one episode than we did last week with the 2 episodes, but there's so much to talk about in this. Anything that we've left on the floor?
Once again, what's to highlight the music of Natalie Holt. It's standing out to me, and I obviously love John Williams and Ludwig and everyone who's done music for Star Wars. Kevin Kiner comes to mind. That Bad Batch trailer music I loved. I'm sometimes someone who just doesn't pick out scores that easily. Like I have to go back in a few times and be like, oh, yeah, that's right. I did love that. This is just jumping out to me. I really love and enjoy the work that's being put into the show.
Yeah, absolutely. I particularly loved the bittersweet music as they're landing on Mapuzo. We've got the little bit of drums, but we have those really kind of soft choral oohs and those plaintive, sad strings. So beautiful, and I really do like that we have Imperial March-esque music for Vader, but it's
Yeah.
not just the Imperial March dropped in there. So I love that that we had that for his horrible march down the street, and I love that the music just stopped when he sensed Obi-Wan and turned.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
All right. Any predictions or hopes for the next episode that we haven't already discussed?
I guess I'm just wondering which direction do they go? Leia taken or Leia rescued?
Hmm.
And what does if it's Reva who's doing this for promotion, but really we know a lot more. If this is a big if she has custody of Leia in any way, shape, or form, what does that do to her? Does it embolden her quest for power? Does it soften her heart in any ways? I don't know if that's the way they go. Could also be a rescue. Makes a lot of sense. I imagine we're going to have Leia reunited with Bail at some point and Brea at some point. I don't know if they're going to stretch that out. That's my only thoughts. It's a two corridors, and which path they're going to go. I'm on board to discover which one it is.
Yeah, I'm in a very similar place. I think, for the trailer shots, we only have a few left that we haven't seen yet that look like there's some sort of conflict or tension at Fortress Inquisitorius on Nur, the water moon torture place. So I'm interested to see how that all plays into it. I had this exact same thought for Reva, right? That if she does capture Leia, will she see Leia as she has been using her as just a means to an end?
Mm-hmm.
Or if she is alone with Leia for a little while and sees a suffering, traumatized child,
Mhm.
especially if people are reading her reaction to that horrific Vader neck snap correctly, of
Right.
is that going to draw something out as Reva? Is this maybe
Mhm.
where Reva is going to tell Leia what happened to her?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. I think that might be. I don't think it's going to be like Leia's going to say a few magic words and Reva's
Right.
going to just turn around, but it might be the beginning of Reva being on this mission for vengeance. But if she's on a mission for vengeance because she thinks the Jedi failed children, how is she going to feel about grabbing this suffering, traumatized child in Leia?
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I don't necessarily have a direction I want them to go. Like I said, I'm open to it, but that one seems to be potentially powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I agree with you. I think at some point Leia is going to be safe enough that Kenobi can make the choice to turn and confront Vader. I think it's going to be on the run for a while now. We left Obi-Wan not in the greatest shape.
Yeah.
And I think all these things are going to pile up that are going to make Obi-Wan want to try to reach out to Anakin. I think, all of this Padme talk, I think, is going to lead towards more of a celebration of the line, "There's still good in him." I think, being infused with Leia's sense of hope, the knowledge that other people are out there actively trying to help people. And then maybe on top of it all, maybe Obi-Wan learning the truth of what happened to Reva is, a part of what will push him to make the decision to try to get through to Anakin.
Love that. The idea of hope being built for Anakin or for Kenobi piece by piece.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Final fun question. What merch would you want based on these episodes?
I do want a Freck figure that comes with the Garden State soundtrack. I do want that.
Absolutely.
Only living boy in New York. Come on. Oh, that's what I want. You squeeze it and you start singing Shin songs. Indeed.
Yeah. Freck with just a huge pile of Garden State DVDs would be absolutely wonderful. I do want a Freck action figure to go with the horrific battle damaged Anakin I have. I now need a battle damaged Obi-Wan.
Yes.
This poor burned arm. And then the final thing, this is a larger purchase. It's not just an action figure, but I want Vader's grill. I want like a normal grill, but then you have a little Vader figure on the side. And when you hit a button, Vader leans down with his saber and ignites the charcoal with his blade.
I'll be happy if people years from now send me that meme. I still get the Death Star fire pit sent to me every 2 months on Facebook. Like I haven't seen it every 2 months for the last few years. But yes, I would take that for Vader.
Absolutely. Just bend down and ignite the charcoal, Vader. All right, Ken, where can people find us?
Hey, you're listening to the Force Center podcast, and we are found on Twitter at Force Center Pod. We're on Instagram and YouTube as well. Facebook page is Force Center Podcast. You can get an audiobook on us by going to audibletrial.com/Force Center, and you can get merch at tpublic.com/user/Force Center. And the podcast available in a lot of different spots. Hey, if you're on Apple, listen over there. Give us a review. We'd love to get up over 1,000. I think is the next big benchmark number for us there. And just search and find us on other platforms. And you can support us directly, which which we appreciate, at patreon.com/Force Center. From there, you get into our Discord server where you can discuss Star Wars with Force Center friends every day. I'm at Ken Napzok, or my website, kennapzok.com. Joseph, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on all the social media, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok is at Joseph Scrimshaw, and you can check out all my other comedy adventures on my website, josephscrimshaw.com. But for now, for myself, for Ken, for the way Ben Kenobi ignited his blade, this has been the Kenobi Report.